from place to place, place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning, morning.
Good morning, viewers, and welcome to the Tobago Updates morning show. Yes, it is 7 a.m. 7 a.m. Welcome to the Tobago Updates morning show, coming to you here live from the Port Mall in Scarborough, Tobago. As we continue to give God thanks for life, I am Julian Skeet.
And I am Ria Richardson George, and this is the day that the Lord has made, and we will rejoice and be glad in it. Good morning to Tobago. Good morning, Trinidad. Those of you viewing in the Caribbean and those of you viewing on the live, good morning, good morning. It's Thursday morning, and we're really happy to be in your company. Thursday is the day before Friday.
It's the day before Friday. It's the day before Friday. And folks, you notice the kind of energy and excitement that Ria says that with. Naturally, you know this is something that she's looking forward to.
That's right, and I make no apologies for it. We love the weekends. We love Fridays. We love Saturdays and Sundays. We do, Julian.
Indeed.
We do.
Yes, indeed. Ria, we saw, in some developments happening there, or rather, I should say, as a reminder to persons, earlier this week, information coming out regarding the closure of Mount Murray Road. That road there in the vicinity of Rapid Response, and where formerly the TRHA would have also operated out of. And I'm really hopeful that we're going to get to some point of because that road seems to be a real challenge.
Yeah, but it didn't happen overnight, because we saw this happening over a period of time, in fact, a few years.
Yeah, a number of years. Right? In fact, I think there have been efforts to fix it.
To do some repairs, but not enough. I think it is more of an issue of the structure, what is happening below, and I don't think the powers that be did enough to avoid this from happening. Sometimes, Julian, we have too many shortcuts to getting the job done. Do it as quickly as you can, for as much as you can, kind of attitude. So I think it needs some major work needs to be done there. But I'm happy that it's happening, because, of course, it would have caused problems as well with the building. Rapid response building. If you notice, I don't know if you've been there recently, but I think when National Insurance, they're no longer there.
No longer.
When they were there, I remember going there. This was over the last 5 years or so. Within the last 5-6 years or so, I remember going there, and you notice that there were cracks even to the foundation of the building. Yes. And part of the building itself, as a result of what was happening with the road. So it's nothing new, but I'm glad that they decided to do something about it at this time.
Certainly something to pay attention to. What's been happening on your end, Ria?
Well, not much, but I'll tell you. In fact, let me just share this very quick story here with you. I met a young lady yesterday, and I don't believe in chance meetings, but she indicated that she needed some assistance. She's not well physically. She was able to work before. Now she's on disability because of some major health challenges. So she's received some assistance from one of the divisions to help with her home, some repairs to her home. But she said to me, I asked, and this is so not funny. She asked for some assistance from a gentleman whom she's known for most of her life. She could be, I'm suspecting that she's younger than I am. But again, health challenges. So she asked for some assistance from this gentleman whom she knows and is familiar with. And he said, I'll be willing to help you for favors. Wow. Probably that same backdoor situation.
Same backdoor situation.
Yeah. And she said, I'm struggling to breathe. I'm struggling to stay alive. And this is what he's proposing. And I'm saying here to our public, our Tobago populace, there was a time when Tobagonians were known for being kind and helpful, and it seems as though we're moving away from that. But I'm saying to you today, here's today's challenge, Thursday's challenge. Be a blessing to somebody. Be kind to somebody. It doesn't matter if we believe they have or they don't have, or that they're squandering. Be kind to somebody today. Step out of your comfort zone. It may be a cup of tea, it may be a sandwich, it may be a pie, it may be something small, it may be $5 to get to work, something small, but be kind, be nice to somebody today. Take up the challenge.
Excellent call there, Ria. Excellent call. Really asking persons to step up to that responsibility. All right, viewers, at this point, we head on into Tobago in Focus. Excellent. So we're heading on into our birthday celebrations to start off this morning. And who do we get started with?
Okay, so these are my very good friends who are celebrating their 16th wedding anniversary today, as on the 16th of March. So it's a sort of golden day for them. It is their 16th anniversary on the 16th of March, 2023, and this is Ronald and Lynelle Adams celebrating their anniversary. He's my poor man, my partner. Love going on to you as well, Ronald. Just go back to that picture real quick, really quickly. That anniversary picture, yeah. And Ronald is also celebrating his birthday today.
And this is the poor man that I met.
This is the poor man. That's my guy.
About that poor.
Yes, two of my favorite persons there. So love going out to you guys, from my family, from all of us here at Tobago Updates.
Yes, happy
Enjoy.
birthday and happy anniversary as well. And we're sending birthday shout outs coming from the Tobago Updates family to Bishop Ayotunde Akindele. Wishing you a happy birthday
and this
God's
is belated.
continued blessings. Belated.
Yes.
Yes, we trust that
Happy
the celebrations
belated.
was well, and certainly that it will continue as you give God thanks for this next year. You know, in life, any opportunity to celebrate, we must be thankful
That's
for,
right.
especially in these
Happy
times.
belated, Bishop. Okay, and we've also got Jillian Sobers, who celebrated her birthday yesterday, and this is the daughter of Signal Hill coming out to you. So love going out to you this morning, Jillian Sobers. And if you know anything about the Sobers clan, hey, happy belated going out to you.
All right. And we continue with our birthday celebrations this morning. Or we got an adjustment there.
We got an adjustment.
Not
I think
a
we're going to continue on a little bit later on as we head on over into news in 90 seconds with Chanel.
Thank you so much, Julian and Ria. And here's your news in 90 seconds for Thursday, the 16th of March, 2023. Political leader of the Tobago Council of the PNM, Ansel Dennis, said the island's economy is worse under the Farley Augustine-led administration of the THA than ever was under the PNM. Dennis admitted that while the Tobago economy was not as strong as it should have been under the PNM, it was not as bad, adding that Augustine's administration destroyed the construction and agriculture sector and demoralized the business sector. He accused Augustine of not prioritizing Tobagonians and said that while he was chief secretary, he prioritized the Tobago by establishing TADCO and wore white boots to visit farmers across the island. Additionally, Scarborough Secondary School student Jacob Cox won third place in the National Secondary Series of the Duathon last weekend. The Duathon is an athletic event consisting of 2 road races and 1 cycling race. The event took place at the Brian Lara Cricket Stadium, where Cox was the only participant from Tobago. It was also Cox's first time competing in the Duathon race. Despite some difficulties, the 15-year-old finished the race within 23.2 minutes. He finished third between 2 Carifta athletes. And finally, the High Court ruled in favor of former Police Commissioner Gary Griffith, preventing the firearm report from being laid in the Parliament. The publication of the report to the other state agency or any third party, including the Parliament, according to Justice Devendra Rampasad, was irrational and a violation of natural justice rules. Griffith filed the lawsuit to have the report squashed and an injunction preventing its publication granted. Instead of publishing the report, according to Justice Rampasad, should not be made public but should be shared with the Commissioner of Police and the Police Service Commission for further investigation under their statutory constitutional obligation. And that was your news in 90 seconds. Back to you, Julian and Ria.
Thank you there, Chanel.
Thank you very much there, Chanel. In the news, Ria, standing out for me, certainly, again, within the context of the politics, indications by the political leader of the People's National Movement, Tobago Council, Dennis, indicating that Tobago is worse now under the PDP, or independence, in terms of the team, with regards to where we are at in terms of the economy and the state of things in Tobago. Interesting perspective. I wonder how do you view that, Ria, in terms of coming forward at this point, based on his concerns, and he has raised some issues in relation to looking at the situation with contractors and so on, as it relates to the sectors, looking at that broader economy, but making the distinction that he's not an economist. He's not an economist, but rather a politician looking at what the situation is.
He was without sin cast the first stone, Julian, under the very PNM-led administration. There were several concerns with regards contracts in the past. So I'm saying here it's a matter, I believe, of getting all of the information. I'm not saying that things may not have been done under the table, so to speak, but there have been times that it has also happened as well with the PNM-led administration. Again, he was without sin cast the first stone. This is not the first time that this issue has come up in politics in Tobago. All right, so I'm going to leave it. I'm going to really leave it there. Because there's a lot of information out there. There are questions to be asked under both parties, and a lot of things have never been cleared up with regards. But under the PNM-led administration, there are a lot of questions that have been asked, and persons still have not gotten the answers needed. So I'm going to leave it there, Julian.
Very interesting times ahead. All right, viewers. At this point, we head on into Tobago in Focus.
Following very closely the operations of a new administration, Technical Advisor to the Division of Education, Research and Technology, Natasha Second, sheds some light on the strategic direction in which the division is headed.
We have been developing our strategic plan over the last few months. We were focusing internally on realigning and streamlining our operations and our procedures within the division itself. We have, just to remind the people, several sections in DIRTEC. The schools themselves, people will be most familiar with those, the head office, TITL, that's 211, and THTI, the hospitality school.
The division was focusing on revising its vision statement and mission statement. They were also focusing on goals to make sure all parts are aligned and prepped for better collaboration to produce a better product in the end.
I'm most pleased to present the improvements that we have in our human resource capacity improvement. Our research department, we recently invested in training of our members of the research unit itself, and we visited Trinidad. We partnered with the University of the West Indies, the Maths and Statistics department there, and we looked at SPSS software and using that for quantitative analysis. So our staff is now quite capable of using that kind of software to deliver quantitative studies in a more effective way, to apply the right tests and so on, so we know what we're researching when we're researching.
She affirmed the use of the software assists in making better use of the data to drive their policy. Also assisting the division is an industrial relations officer who is currently getting rid of the backlog as it relates to industrial relations issues, human resource issues, among other issues for the division.
We also want to look at the second phase of Project Impact. That began as a remedial program, but we are very happy to say that in the July-August period, we're going to be doing both the remedial and the accelerated program. So we want to invite teachers to get excited and apply to tutor, and parents to get involved, get their children involved, bring them out, so that we can overall improve the quality of our education from the early childhood all the way up to secondary.
Mrs. Second explains that with many of the newest members of the division, including the secretary, having experienced what it's like to be in a classroom and a school setting, this brings about a certain understanding and compassion in getting things done.
viewers, welcome back this morning to the Tobago Updates Morning Show. Just before we get into our first interview this morning, we want to continue on with our birthday celebrations for today, the 16th March 2023. And one of our favorite persons here celebrating her birthday, Shirley Cook. Happy birthday going out to you this morning. We trust that you have a really great one. And that's a fun pic of you there up close and personal. Shirley, we trust that you have a great one. And lots of love from all of us here at Tobago Updates. One of our favorite persons indeed. And this is one of our lovely friends here, Mariska Thomas. She was one of our guest hosts for the show last week as we focused on women. It was our Women's Week as we concentrated on International Women's Day that was held on the 8th of March. Mariska Thomas, happy birthday going out to you, and lots of love from the entire Tobago Updates family. Well, viewers, interesting topic this morning for discussion. Our guest on set, Dr. Alina Williams, is going to be chatting with us this morning, and she is a clinical psychologist. Our topic of discussion, in fact, on the rundown, let me explain this. It's postpartum depression and what to look for. Now, I'm understanding that we no longer go by that term. We no longer use that term, postpartum depression, and it is now perinatal mood and anxiety disorder. So I'm hoping that we can put that new term up on for the CG bar. No longer postpartum depression. It is now perinatal mood and anxiety disorder. Good morning and welcome to you, Dr. Williams.
Thank you, Ria. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to discuss this. Good morning, Tobago, and thank you for tuning in.
I am as well. Now let's get right into things.
Yes.
What is it?
So most people are accustomed to the term postpartum depression, and that sort of restricted our understanding of the maternal mental health difficulties that women experience. Now, if I were to ask you, what is the #1 complication of pregnancy? Most people would say something related to physical pain or physical complications, but it's actually perinatal depression. So what does that mean? The perinatal period covers from conception through pregnancy up until 1 year postpartum. And we've recognized that most women experience not just depression, but anxiety as well as a range of other distressing symptoms during that perinatal period. From conception, there is HCG hormones, rise in progesterone and estrogen. There's nausea. There's sometimes for women, they experience extremely bad nausea, which is distressing, sleep deprivation. A lot of changes happen early. So we recognize that it's no longer just postpartum that women are experiencing distress. It is from the moment of conception.
Does it differ in terms of age? Is it different for the younger mothers or for the more matured mothers? Or I mean, is there an age factor here with regards this disorder?
So there isn't necessarily a issue related to age per se, unless we're talking about teenage pregnancy. So teenagers are at higher risk for experiencing a perinatal mood and anxiety disorder, but the risk factors vary significantly. So there are biological risk factors like genetics, hereditary, if you have a family history of mental illness, if you yourself have had a previous history of mental illness. There are psychological factors like how people respond to distressing situations, personality styles, coping resources, even personal beliefs. And of course, there's social and environmental factors. So things like your support system, if there are interpersonal relationship problems, if you don't have a community around you that is supportive, even culture plays a significant role, poverty. So these things are risk factors and they happen regardless of age. But of course, teenagers are a unique set of a group of people that may have other risks that predispose them to higher rates.
I want us to talk a little bit about the signs and symptoms of perinatal mood and anxiety disorder. Now, I know there are a lot of persons who believe that this is just this is all part and parcel of it.
Yes.
But are there cases when it does not happen?
So with perinatal, so most people are accustomed to the baby blues, and that's the term we hear often. about 80% of women will experience the baby blues, right? This starts about 3 days postpartum, and it would last or resolve within 1 to 2 weeks. There's tearfulness, irritability, confusion, and even low mood, but functioning is not affected.
Okay.
When it comes to the more severe cases, so when we're talking about the perinatal mood now, like depression disorders, bipolar disorders, the panic disorders, we are looking at extreme symptoms. So for example, changes in appetite, changes in sleep. There is extreme confusion, difficulty concentrating, extreme fatigue. Now we know fatigue is part of being a new mom.
Right.
Because you have to wake up often to breastfeed, but this fatigue is unrelenting. Even when the mom has time for herself, there is anhedonia, which is an inability to experience pleasure in things that they once enjoyed. You find that there's a lot of tearfulness, crying for no reason. There's a lot of guilt and shame. There are thoughts of death or recurrent thoughts of suicide, even thoughts of harming the baby sometimes. And one thing that is extremely common is intrusive thoughts. Intrusive thoughts are thoughts that just pop into your head. Most often they relate to thoughts about the baby being harmed, like what if I drop the baby? What if I just drive off a cliff? Things like that that might seem distressing, those are very common. But once you notice significant changes in your behavior, in your mood, the way you think, then of course it's time to think that you may have something more serious than the postpartum blues.
And this is way beyond what we thought, or what we would think is normal or a part of, according to the baby
Definitely, definitely, it's in the extreme. So we look at frequency, intensity, severity. As I say, the postpartum blues would start about 3 days, but it would, sort of give up about up to 2 weeks, 3 weeks postpartum. But PMADs, they last very long. They could go beyond the 1 year postpartum period. And the frequency of symptoms, the person experiences the symptoms almost every day. It's not like a crying once in a while kind of thing. This is almost every day. They're unable to function. They're unable to do things like even form an attachment with the baby. So in postpartum, in postpartum blues, the mother still feels a bond and an attachment with the baby. In PMADs, we find that this is disrupted. So the mother has less touch contact with the baby. Sometimes the mother doesn't even want to look at the baby. There is resentment towards the baby. So it's definitely more intense and more severe.
What are some of the coping mechanisms that can be put in place? And we want to talk as well about the family, the role of the family, the role of the extended family as well in assisting this new mother with dealing with this. What are some of the coping mechanisms that can be put in place?
What I would say is we have to evaluate for each individual what might be contributing to their experience of PMADs. If, for example, it's sleep, because sleep is a significant risk factor for worsening mental health, then we need to put things in place where a mother could get rest, whether that's combination feeding, where she might pump and allow the father to give the bottle during the midnight period, or if it's that during the day somebody comes over, helps the baby so that she could get some rest, then those things help. But also when it comes to support, the postpartum period is very difficult. It represents the biggest drop in hormones for women or any person in their lifetime. And in addition to that, if you've had other complications like a C-section, a traumatic birth and delivery, if you had a baby that was in the NICU or a premature baby, then those things require more support. I would also say, however, that in the Caribbean, we've recognized that risk factor for PMADs is also intrusive support. So this is where the support is too much. And let me explain.
Please do.
This is the support where you don't even have the ability to make decisions about how you're going to care for the child on your own. So this is the grandmom or the auntie or the nene.
Which could pose another set of problems.
Telling you to do this, don't do that, do this. And in my days, I did this. And that could actually contribute to experiencing depression and anxiety during that perinatal period.
Now, we also have where young mothers in the Caribbean, persons are always coming to visit. So at 10 o'clock in the morning, they come in to visit you and the baby. 2 o'clock in the afternoon. 5 o'clock in the afternoon, when you want to be able to take a rest. And I often say, if you're coming over to say hi, be prepared to do some dishes, do
Thank
some
you.
laundry, pass a
Agreed.
broom,
Yes,
sweep, mop,
yes.
do something.
Exactly.
But it's not just to chill out with a new mom.
Yes,
A
yes.
new mom usually does not have that time. In fact,
Yes.
if they had that time, they would not be talking with you.
Right.
They would be sleeping.
They would be resting, exactly, yeah. And I think support systems need to be more proactive. So don't wait to be asked for certain things, you know. Take initiative and say, you know, this person is newly postpartum, I will cover food this week, or I will do dishes this week. Just if you have a friend that has just delivered, has just given birth, then take initiative to be of assistance. You know, at this point, you don't want to be draining the person, you want to be adding to this person. And many mothers don't ask for help. And that has a lot to do with social media too, because there's this portrayal that mothers could do it all.
Super mom.
Yeah, exactly.
I have to say, I see your social media. Your social media, not your rants, you don't rant,
No.
but your stories and your conversations. And you've been very real about being a new mom.
Definitely.
And I'll be honest with you, I was very surprised, but I enjoyed every moment of it because you were very real. And that's a conversation that a lot of young mothers do not have.
Yes.
Because we come from parents, from mothers who knew it all, because by the
Yes.
time we became adults, mommy had it down pat.
Yes,
You understand?
yes.
So this
And
was a role
there's
model.
so many transitions that take place, even in terms of your career. You know, there's a lot of sacrifice that you have to make. There were a lot of opportunities I had to give up because I was now at home with my son, or I had to pick him up from daycare, or I just couldn't be there when I had to see about him. And I have a lot of support around me, Ria, and I still found it very difficult. There were times that I would cry. There were times my son was crying and I was crying too. Like, we both crying. I don't know what's happening. And I'm thinking, you know, there are people that do this alone. And I have so much help, I have resources available, but it was difficult. So I know that many women suffer in silence too, because they feel if they talk about it, that, you know, as a professional, I would step in and have their children taken away, or that we'll call children's authority and have them investigated. But no, these experiences are very normal, and it's only about 1 in every 1,000 person go on to develop postpartum psychosis, which is actually considered a psychiatric emergency. So this is where now you have beliefs that sort of seem real. You might believe that your child is possessed. You might believe that bathing the child with boiling water is needed to rid the child of germs, and you don't find it distressing. You might have strange or odd hallucinations, even thoughts about harming the child, harming yourself. And so as a psychiatric emergency, postpartum psychosis requires immediate intervention, and the onset of it usually happens within 4 weeks postpartum, and it is very sudden. So that's what makes it a psychiatric emergency as well, because it just comes on. What we know is that the biggest risk factor for postpartum psychosis is a previous history of a psychotic episode or bipolar disorder. So it's very rare. I mean, the media depicts that it's more common because, you know, they're exaggerated, but it's actually only about 1 in every 1,000 women would experience that. But postpartum or perinatal depression is 1 in every 5 women, and it is the most common complication of pregnancy, and maternal suicide is the leading cause of maternal deaths postpartum. So not preeclampsia, not hemorrhaging, not even gestational diabetes or anything like that. It's, you know, maternal suicide.
Wow, how can one safeguard against this?
So definitely for patients at risk, for example, what we try to do is have a postpartum plan in place, and it has to be very explicit. We can't leave anything up to chance. You have to know every week or even day by day, hour by hour, what you're going to be doing, how you're going to be operating, who is going to be around you, the resources that you're going to rely on.
Quick question: When do you have this discussion? How do you know then that this patient is at risk? At what point along the pregnancy or before conception,
Yes.
do you have this discussion?
So if there's an experience where there's somebody that has seen us that has a prior history of mental health and then becomes pregnant, we automatically start putting things in place in the event they develop postpartum mood or anxiety disorders, right? But during the antenatal clinic too, sometimes there are doctors and nurses that would ask questions, and it's important to ask questions because, as I said, it's the #1 complication of pregnancy. A lot of us tend to think it's things like gestational diabetes or hypertension, but no, it's all the mental health conditions. So asking questions, having the OBGYN ask, how are you feeling? How have you found yourself? How is your sleep? How is your appetite? Are you able to get to work? Are you able to do things like you normally did? And sometimes I would admit we have been getting an increase in referrals related to perinatal mood and anxiety disorders. And I think that means that gynecologists, OBGYNs are looking for symptoms and doing the necessary things that would allow the person to thrive.
So is it that they're now asking questions, or is it that questions were being asked before, but there was a lower
Rate of
number, a lower
response.
rate of persons?
People are being more open, and I think mothers like myself who come out and talk about things openly, because, you know, a lot of people be like, you know, before I had my son, a lot of people be like, oh, you don't know what you're missing out, and, you know, having a child is the most wonderful thing, and all I got was the good. I did not get a lot of information, especially about the postpartum period. So I remember 4 days after I got home, I woke up one morning and I was like the whole side of my bed was wet, and I'm like, what is this? Something is wrong. I didn't know that postpartum sweating was a common thing, your body getting rid of the water. Like, no one explained those things to me. Then I would have constant thoughts of dropping my son in the sink when I was bathing him. These thoughts will just pop into my head, and all I could see is my son falling in the sink, busting his head, and having blood all over him. And I didn't know that intrusive thoughts happen in up to 90% of women.
And I have to make it clear here. You are a clinical psychologist. You were not having, as far as you know, any mental health issues.
None.
And so...
And I have good support.
What did this do to you when you realized that this was happening?
Yes. So when I must admit to that I had a very high-risk pregnancy and a very difficult C-section. And those experiences caused me to have postpartum trauma, which is part of the PMADs, right? So I would wake up screaming sometimes. I had a lot of dreams and nightmares about blood just because of how my C-section was. I had to have a blood transfusion. And in my experience of having postpartum trauma, I technically healed myself. I went through the trauma protocol that I would use with a patient and applied it to myself to get rid of these symptoms. And I told myself, if I didn't know that what I was experiencing was postpartum trauma, I could go on, which happens in up to 30% of women. When their postpartum depression or anxiety is not resolved, they go on to then develop a full-blown depression and anxiety episode. And I feel like if I had resources, I had support, I had everything, yet I had this experience, what does it leave for people that don't know or don't have the kind of resources or access to support that I did? And so that is why I decided I need to be honest and open about my experiences to let people know it's common, it's okay, and it is treatable. It is very treatable. Once you seek help early, postpartum or maternal mental health issues can resolve very easily.
Let me ask you on a personal note, what do you know now about motherhood that you did not know before, or that you may have taken for granted before? Or maybe you felt as though they lied to you about before?
I did not realize how much of a sacrifice it was. Motherhood is pure sacrifice. Your body just changes the way your body used to function. That changes, your priorities completely shift. And even in the absence of my son, all I can think about is him. You know, people will be like, leave him in daycare and you go and do things. But I still feel like I am the best person for him. Even when he's with his dad, I still feel like I am the
You're the best person
yes.
for him.
So motherhood is a sacrifice. Parenthood is a sacrifice. And you are never the same person. It doesn't matter whether you are 1 year, 2 year, 15 years postpartum. You are forever changed once you conceive and give birth to a child.
I feel as though this is a Mother's Day interview that we're doing. How can persons get that support? Who should they call? Where should they go? What should they do to be able to move forward?
So once you recognize that your symptoms, I would say, for example, once it's 4 weeks postpartum and you're still having excessive feelings of crying, tearfulness, sadness, changes in just the way you function, even bonding with your baby, you're irritable, constantly agitated, fatigue, etc. I would say speak to your primary care doctor, your gynecologist, or even when you go to your 6-week follow-up postpartum, let the provider know what you're experiencing. Be open about it. Don't be worried that it's going to result in you being admitted to the psychiatric ward or anything like that, because those things, as I say, are very rare. Yes, they're very rare unless it's a postpartum psychotic episode. So be open about it with your primary caregiver, and they can make the necessary referral, but also sometimes mothers too need to just ask for more support. So if you notice you're feeling overwhelmed, get the people around you to be very involved in helping you, even if it's not direct care with the baby, because again, mothers, you think you're the best for the baby, but they could take care of you.
Right.
Yeah.
I got it. Is there a number they can call? How can they reach out to you?
Sure.
Or do you operate only by referrals?
So we operate mostly by referrals, but we do take walk-ins as well. So people could come to the department, the mental health unit at the Scarborough General Hospital or at the Scarborough Health Center in Bacolet. They can walk in and simply talk to someone explaining what they experience. And we've had that a lot happening recently too.
Let me just share very quickly here with a viewer on the live. The viewer says, I remember hearing a governor's wife said that her husband came home and met her trying to fit the newborn into the microwave. I'm so happy that this topic is being discussed. Thank you.
Yes. I had the experience of a mom that she was cleaning her child with Lysol and bleach and stuff, and it's because she had the belief that the child was somehow infected. So she was having an ego-syntonic, intrusive experience, right? She was definitely psychotic. And that's when it represents an emergency. But for most women that have distressing thoughts, it's ego-dystonic. They know that it's distressing, they feel uncomfortable, and at that point you should reach out before it progresses to anything serious.
Thank you so much for chatting with us this morning, Dr. Williams.
Thank
a pleasure indeed. Remind us again of a contact or location that persons can call or visit.
Right, so the mental health unit at the Scarborough General Hospital, the unit is also at the Bacolet Health Center. The number they can call, 660-4744, extension 3157. That's the mental health unit. You could come with a referral or you can walk in.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much there. Viewers, lots more coming up on the Tobago Updates morning show. So remember, share the live, share the live, share the live.
Yes, everyone, it's your boy Harry here from Authentic Builders. And this Saturday, the 18th, we will be having our massive Construction Day sale and customer giveaway. And on this day, we will also be launching our new menu, sale menu of Trinidad prices right here in Tobago on blocks, steel and lumber. And also having free giveaways for the kids. So come on down to Authentic Builders this Saturday, located right here at Old Storby Local Road.
Welcome to Authentic Builders.
Tobago, it's time to go.
Get in the internet.
Sweet like
Tobago, here's the real deal. Nothing sweeter than when your internet fast all day, every day. I telling you, it's real nice when your home internet and TV package fit your budget. Well, if that's what you want, you're safe with Digicel Plus. Sign up or switch to Digicel Plus now and pay $0 for 1 month. Plus, plans start as low as $199 and you get installed for free. Visit digiceltt.com or a Digicel store now.
Everybody only worrying. Never ever worry. Don't mind how things looking hard. I tell them never ever worry. If your nice can't get damaged bad. I tell them never ever worry. What I'm saying is true. So just consider Tatil is always right here for you. I tell them never ever worry. Don't mind if life make you sad. I tell them never ever worry. If your house get flooded out real bad. I tell them never ever worry. What I'm saying is true. So just consider Tatil is always right here for you. I tell them never ever worry. If sickness catch you off guard. I tell them never ever worry. If times fall on you real hard. I tell them never ever worry. What I'm saying is true. So just consider Tatil will always be here for you.
Never worry about a thing. Tatil, where people are people. You know what I mean.
Put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place.
Good morning, viewers. It is 7:39 a.m. and welcome back to the Tobago Updates morning show, coming to you here live from the Port Mall in Scarborough, Tobago. On set with us this morning, we are chatting women and finance in the home. And we're speaking with Cherise McKnight, financial advisor. Morning, and welcome to you.
Good morning.
So as we get this conversation started this morning, I mean, I am already familiar, but tell us, who is Cherise McKnight?
Cherise, if I have to describe myself, I start with wife, mother, love finance. I've been in finance for years, since 2002. Right. I've been in finance. I've been in different aspects of finance from beginning to now, where I'm actually giving advice with finance. It's been a roller coaster. I've been in every aspect. I've experienced it all. I've experienced the debt. I've experienced surplus. I've experienced the balancing off where my finances is concerned. I've experienced the intermittent costs that may come, building, loans, repayment of loans. I've seen it on both sides, from experiencing it personally as well as doing it for other persons, because in my past I would have been a loan officer at an institution. So giving loans and having one of my own is an experience as well. Credit, so everybody knows.
Interesting enough, and I like the direction that you're going, because we're speaking to finance in the home. Yeah. And I want to start off on the premise of how important is it for us to really try to ensure that that balance exists at home? Because for many of us, you know, sometimes you have both parents at home. One that really doesn't come down to that pen and paper kind of determination as to how things will go, but they seem to find a way. Sometimes you don't come down to that pen and paper. You don't find a way at all until you get to the extremes. And then you have some that do I just pay all the bills, and whoever left, I find a way to live on that, even if it means I ain't taking care of myself. So let's start from there, in terms of that guidance, where you may have the two-parent home versus the one-parent home when you're speaking to managing finances.
Well, to be very honest, most persons would have different views, but for me, especially from looking at assessing persons where their finances are concerned, whether you're single or you're not, is almost the same bucket we're coming from, right? When it comes to the home, in the past, it was more the female at home. So as much as she was not bringing in the income, she was the one who was assisting the male in managing his income. And now where we have both female and male bringing in the income, you also look at how the finances would be affected with the time. Because when you're not home, you have to pay somebody to be home. And if you can't afford to pay somebody to be home, then the child is at home creating an expense of its own. So there are different challenges. I cannot say that I have experienced single parenting before, but I've experienced being at home on my own and channeling it through. There were a lot of choices I had to make with my children. So there were times that my husband had to make a choice to be somewhere else and I'm somewhere else. And we had the children. So you still had a of what single parenting is. But when it comes down to the finances, every decision you make actually affects your finance. A lot of people don't see it, but they experience it in the back end. So yes, bills are very important. So that is what maintains the basic necessities of the home. So in business, you would call it overhead cost. A businessman would not ignore his overhead costs. It's the same way in the home, if you want to look at it as a financial cap, you would say that is your main business. Your business is to maintain you and your children and your spouse and everything else. You have maintenance. If you don't have the home of your own, you have rent. These are things that the basic things that you need to have to supply yourself as well as those who depend on you. Being joint, you have an up to some sort once both parties communicate and are in agreement where we both contribute, because there are some who, even though there are two parties, there's only one person contributing to be realistic. So you also have to have that form of communication and understanding. If you are a single parent, you now have to have that communication with someone who's not even an adult, because it has to have some form of understanding there as well. So
you do advise that you in terms of your children, that they should have an understanding of what's happening in the household.
Yes.
Because you know we came from a time where your parents dealt with your financial business as that's my stress and my struggle. Your responsibility is just to go to school, get an education, and focus and do your best.
That is correct.
What is your recommendations? You know, as a financial advisor now,
especially being a mommy, I allow my son to make decisions. The younger one, not so much, but the older one, I put him in a position to know. When we go to school, yes, we go to school, we go to university, we even go as far as doctorate and you get your finance degree. But having a degree doesn't know you know what to do. Having a degree just gives you the opportunity to talk. But if it is that we as parents, we allow our children to understand the nitty-gritties. Yes, you may not have to tell them, oh God, I owe $1 million here or whatever be the case, but they are owings. Allow them to understand that. Allow them to understand that, hey, when you want that original Jordans, it's taking away something from the phone bill. It's taking away something from the light bill. When you want that Apple iPhone, it's taking away. What helps me? You could do the chores home. That would alleviate me having to do it. And then now I can spend more time thinking about the amount of money that comes in. It would alleviate me having to cut across my one-on-one time with you to go out to get another income. Because I've been there where I had to say, okay, I need to do something on the side, which means I have to avoid my kids a little bit more. And then they now become the responsibility of a babysitter, which is an added cost to me. So all of that is part of financial planning. So I do have those conversations with my children, and I do encourage anybody to have those conversations with my children. And I allow them, when I have the opportunity to, I allow them to make certain financial decisions on their life and let them know, hey, when you make this choice, remember whatever result this choice brings, you have to bear that cost. So, yeah.
So one of the areas, you know, I definitely want to speak to is looking at the minimum wage and those average, those workers daily rated and so on, that may not necessarily be on the higher end. But I don't know, by some stretch of the imagination, and even pensioners, grandparents, and so on. And, you know, I have my very own experiences coming from very humble beginnings. They seem to find ways to have managed resources. And years later, you wonder, but Granny, you know, how you were able to do that? And, you know, I feel like compared to now, younger persons, middle age, etc., in areas and so on that may not be high income or average earning, finding it extremely challenging to be able to. What would be your advice in terms of, you know, finding some ways that they can still, even out of little, still find something to get a lot or to save in some way, form, or fashion?
Well, over the years, I noticed there are two types of people in everybody. You and I, there's a type for us. So either I'm a spender or I'm a buyer, right? So the spender is the one that would go out and I just have to get it because I'm convincing myself why I need to buy this product. Even though it's not a need, it's not something that I really want. But, you know, it's always good to have it. And then you have the buyer. I'm only going for this phone. I needed to do this particular service. I don't need all the other bells and whistles, so that's all I need it for. So you have the different persons, and the characteristic of each person brings out a difference in their savings. So you would realize a buyer, regardless of their income, it could be $1,500 a month. When you check their savings, they have a savings. And then you would have the spender, when you check their savings, they don't have any.
You're going from month to month.
So even though, yes, right now,
and in some
the
cases,
minimum
fortnight to
wage,
fortnight, paycheck to paycheck.
The minimum wage is, I wouldn't even comment on the minimum wage. And yes, we know there are persons who are working for less than what I may even consider a good monthly income to survive off of. But if you look at it out of 10, you may find like 3 of them that actually have a savings bigger than mine. And you would wonder, okay, well, how did you go about it? I did a project with my children, and it was a form of allowing my son to understand the value of money and how it multiplies. So with the 7-year-old, I have a 12 and a 7-year-old. The 7-year-old, he's supposed to save 25 cents every day. Regardless of what you do, figure out 25 cents. My older son, I started him with 25 cents. And I said, every week, you double whatever you did the week before. So if you did 25 cents this week, next week we're doing 50 cents every day. The next week you're doing $1 every day until eventually you reach to a lucrative amount. And when he saw at the end of a 6-month period how much money he had, he's like, Mommy, I'm rich. I said, yeah. So now, you know, being a Christian, 10% goes back to God. So you need to give your dues where that is concerned. And then 10% needs to go to you. And I say the rest, that is for further down the road. Because you don't have no bills. Because I have your back where that is concerned. But you need to cater for the days when I am not around. And that is what I encourage persons to teach their children now. Because if we don't allow ourselves to put our children in a knowledge base where spending and managing their money is, Juliana, it's problems.
Correct. Being able to get the basics and know how to make it work for you. Very quickly, because we've got to close just out of time. I want you to touch on, as well as a financial advisor, people sometimes get consumed and are not as familiar with the options. Their banks, their credit unions, their insurance, various agencies. Where would you suggest or direct options that persons should be able to explore? Because, you know, people think, make the mix up to think the money that goes into my standard savings account that makes little to nothing is an investment.
No, it's not.
Yes. So just some quick guidance on that. And I often have to explain to person, yes, banks actually have investments tools, and it's not your savings account.
There are investment
If you could touch
tools.
on that very quickly.
So you have like your mutual funds. You would have, with the credit union, it would be the shares. Even credit unions are now going into other aspects of different products. You would have unit trust, which also is a good place to save. With the insurances, you're looking at your endowments, even certain aspects of your life insurance you could use as a form of investment. If your appetite is big, you're looking at going into stocks, different types of stocks, bonds. When the government gives out bonds, those are things that you can invest into. But all of these things takes a planning. Unless you have the money ready hand, you would have to plan your way to get to those points.
Contact information for persons who are interested in having a further conversation with you, because you're sounding like you're in my kind of situation. Mother, working.
Yes. Well, I enjoy all my aspects of me. So to contact me, 792-0915. You would get me. If you don't, if you leave a message, you'll get a response.
Certainly. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for joining us here on set. Sharice
Nice having
McKnight,
you.
financial advisor. And, I love these kinds of conversations. It puts you into a very realistic perspective. We may not have much, but we've got much to do, and therefore
That
we
is
have to find ways in order to make things work for us legally. All right, in terms of moving forward and moving ahead. Yes, and there are persons in similar circumstances. No, financial advisors are not necessarily billionaires under the circumstances, so they're here to help you through circumstances that even you may be going through. So feel free to connect, definitely. Thank you so much for your continued love and support, those of you joining us via TV, those listening in on the radio, and those of you online in the mix this morning. Quick shout outs: Eric Powder, Travis Moses, Julia Brown, Maximilian on the live, June, Sharon Mills, Auntie Dora on the live this morning, Marilyn Spence, Joe Field, QQ Melville, Lisa James. Good morning to each and every one of you. And we want to remind you, all of you out there this morning, that this is your opportunity to share the live, share the live, share the live.
This is how it's gonna go. They better look up below, 'cause this is your show, and everybody's gonna know. Say it to them once again. They better look up below. This is your show, and everybody's gonna know. That's how it's gonna go. They better look up below, 'cause this is your show.
Yes, everyone, it's your boy Harry here from Authentic Builders. And this Saturday, the 18th, we will be having our massive Construction Day sale and customer giveaway. And on this day, we will also be launching our new menu, sale menu of Trinidad prices right here in Tobago on blocks, steel and lumber. And also having free giveaways for the kids. So come on down to Authentic Builders this Saturday, located right here at Old Tobago Local Road.
Welcome to Authentic Builders.
Put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, viewers, and welcome back to the Tobago Updates Morning Show, coming to you here live from the Port Mall in Scarborough, Tobago. And we're heading on into our final segment for this morning on the Tobago Updates Morning Show. And Rhea, who do we have coming up now?
Well, Julia, we're going to be chatting this morning with Fitzherbert Glenn Niles, who is the founder and chairman of the Down Syndrome Family Network. He should be on the line with us even as we speak. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Morning. Oh, I'm now trying to find a louder volume now. Morning, everyone. Morning to Tobago. And thank you for having me on board here.
All right, thank you so much for joining us on set this morning. So as we get the conversation started, you are the founder and chairman of Down Syndrome Family Network. And just before we tap into the upcoming conference for 2023, I just want you to give us just a quick synopsis. How has that experience been in a world where people have to learn and understand that even with challenges that may come, we got to live as one society collectively, supporting each other?
Wow, you picked the hardest question to ask me first.
We're getting straight on it.
Yeah, well, straight on hard. You went straight pretty good. All right, well, that is the most difficult part of this whole thing. And it's not only having society understand that people with intellectual disabilities, physical disabilities are part of society and should be included in society. It's even us as parents understanding that first, because it starts with us. Like when my son was born, and I always have to say I was lost. I had no idea what Down syndrome was. I had no idea how to cope, what kind of future he will have, and I couldn't find the answers here, literally. The people that I saw with Down syndrome, they weren't doing anything at all. In fact, you hardly saw anybody. Most of them were kept at home. They were hidden away. People were ashamed of them, and that still happens today. With persons with Down syndrome and other disabilities, and that was my experience. So I started to look outside. Look at international organizations, and I realized that there was a larger support system, outside. And I attended a conference and became affiliated with that organization, the National Down Syndrome Congress, and that they are based in Atlanta. And then we have the National Down Syndrome Society that's based in New York. Those were the two primary organizations that I started to follow. And the Congress had this annual conference, and that conference was the catalyst. That was it. That changed my life forever, attending that conference. And for the first time in my life, I never saw so many people with Down syndrome in one place. And the biggest mark was looking at them and seeing how independent some of them were. In fact, the majority of them, they were very independent. I would see them from the checking into the hotel for the conference. I mean, this was a huge conference with over 3,000 attendees. This was back in, I think, 2007, 2008. And I'm seeing all these families coming in, and all the children, various ages, from toddlers to young adults to adults, coming in with Down syndrome. And in a few cases, parents would be holding the hands of adults coming in. But in the majority of cases, they were walking on their own. They were carrying their own luggage. And after they checked in and the parents went up to the room, they went off on their own with their friends. Because this conference is an annual conference. So it's like a reunion, an annual reunion for people who attend every year. And so they meet up their friends in the lobby, and you see them hugging and kissing, just like what the average teenager or the average young adult would be doing. So, I stood there with probably my jaw resting on the ground, looking at all of this. I mean, coming from Trinidad, where I thought of seeing people with Down syndrome out and about, far more to see them interacting like this. This was mind-blowing to me. And then during the course of the conference, I started to understand why this was possible. And the main reason was integration. A lot of the children, the young adults with Down syndrome, who were more independent, it is because they were part of an inclusive educational system. They went to school, the average school, with everybody else. They did separate classes, they did some separate modules, but they attended the same school. They weren't separated, they were not segregated, and sent to a special school with only persons with disabilities. They attended the same school. And so certain classes would be integrated, and certain classes were not, dependent on what courses they were doing. And that is what made them into this more independent individual, because of that opportunity. And well, as I said, that changed my life. When I came back, all the thoughts I had of what the future of my son would be like, that was changed in an instant. I stopped doing everything for him.
Yeah.
Because, as a parent, I love my son, and I thought that doing everything for him, helping him, shower, dress, even cut up, his meal, and make it easy for him to eat. I was just making everything easy. And unfortunately, what I was doing is hindering his development, because I wasn't giving him the opportunity to try things, to learn, to fail, to try again. So he would make mess when he's eating. But if I don't allow him to make mess and teach him how to eat properly without making mess, then he will make mess for the rest of his life. And that is what we were doing as parents until we learn differently. You know, with everything, it started with that. It started with just everything that we had to do for him. So his life changed, and ours changed as well. And now I look at him and I see the remarkable progress, and everybody would ask me, how is your son like that? You know, how you do all of this? Well, I'll tell him it wasn't easy. It was a very, very difficult road, but the whole thing is that we did not give up. We just kept doing it, and we see the results now. And we have other parents in the network, they are doing the same thing. And when you see the results of their children now, and they are young adults now, some of them are employed, you know, actually functioning in a workplace. And that would not have been possible if they did not give them the opportunity, if they did not let go, you know, and let them thrive, let them learn on their own. And that is what we are trying to get society to understand, that they are not just special, and we do have to keep treating them special, and we do have to segregate them and lock them away in one school with only persons with disabilities. Then how will they learn? What are they seeing to emulate? And how will they understand society when society doesn't know them, because society is not
really speaking to you know, that experience there. And you know, sometimes it's probably the kind of the equivalence, if I want to say, in one's own circumstances, where you think doing everything for, and that's really one of the standouts there for me. When you hear persons that have that level of commitment to the institution and organization, really, really kind of interesting. I'm hoping that we'd be able to get him back there. There was apparently some technical difficulties here in terms of his connection on that end.
But while we wait on him, while we wait for that reconnection, Julian, in the interest of time here, we have to mention here the Rock Your Socks Week is coming up.
Yes.
As we lead up to World Down Syndrome Day, which is going to be Monday. Monday on Tobago updates, Rock Your Socks Week. All right, so I guess as of Monday, we're going to be rocking socks. Julian, we're looking forward to seeing your socks being rocked.
Yes, definitely, definitely. I will be in that lineup without a hesitation to ensure, you know, because we've got to bring that level of awareness and support. And that's the point that I always make. The week is about being able to promote that level of awareness and support of folks. But it's not just about a day, or it's not just about a week, and it's not just about rocking your socks, but really seeking to understand, really seeking to be informed, really seeking to be educated, and to have some additional knowledge in relation to, you know, the whole issue and learnings. And it's probably a good opportunity for us to pull up on screen very quickly. I know we lost him in the conversation with technical difficulties, but we still want to give you the information that is important. And there's that flyer that I'd like to pull up on screen. So it's open to all. And certainly this is the initiative that Fitzherbert Glenn Niles was on this morning to communicate with us about. It's open to all. Come join us, with us, not for us, all right? And that's the UN World Down Syndrome Day Conference 2023. It's happening here in Tobago, and it's Thursday, the 23rd of March, 2023, at the Shore Park Complex at Tobago, and that's next week, Thursday.
That's right.
The 23rd of March, 2023, at the Shore Park Cultural Complex, Tobago, and that runs from 9 a.m. And you see there's the full lineup of speakers. Deputy Chief Secretary, that's Dr. Faith B. Israel. We have a number of feature speakers and guest speakers who will also be on the lineup. Professor Rosemary Bell Antoine, a principal of the University of the West Indies St. Augustine campus. Guest speaker is also Assemblyman Zarisha Hackett, Secretary with responsibility for education, research, and technology. Senator Paul Richards' special presentation on the life and work of Judith Human. And, a number of areas to be captured and covered there coming up with this conference. So we really want to encourage persons, certainly, to check it out for more information. And we're hoping that we'll be able to have him on between then and now to really go into it in some more details, folks.
Most definitely, and I think it's an excellent point for us to wrap things up on here, Julian. And again, mention here that Rock Your Talks Week coming up. And again, it's all about awareness for persons with Down syndrome and persons who are special, different but equal. Yes. I know that was the theme last time. We would have loved to have heard from Mr. Niles, the theme for 2023 for Down Syndrome Day.
So I'm sure we're going to have him back on to be able to have further discussion. All right. So we're looking forward. And it's not just Rhea and Julian and Candice and Chanel, and Keely and Dwayne and Luke rocking those socks. We want to see cameramen rocking those socks. We want to see directors rocking those socks, producers, the entire team here. Don't worry, folks. We're going to capture it on camera and put it out there for you on social media. Thank you so much for the continued love and support for the Tobago Updates morning show, coming to you here again live from the Port Mall in Scarborough, Tobago. We're on the top floor. That's right. All right, folks, it's been great. All of you joining us via TV, those connecting on the radio, and those of you tuned in online, thank you once again. And we are heading on out for the Tobago Updates morning show. But stay tuned because we're heading straight on over Rhea to
GMT.
All right. Bye-bye, folks.
The word intercol is usually associated with schools, cricket and football. So how about golf? The Golf Intercol 2023 has been introduced to Tobago by Irvin's Golf Academy. The event is already building anticipation as the clock ticks down to the tee-off.
All of the school were excited to get the golf really, especially the golf school intercol, the first ever in Tobago. And due to the pandemic in 2020, the school golf intercol was cancelled. And thank God for that we are partly out of the pandemic and we could have this golf really come on in March 17th, right at the Mountain Golf Course at 9 a.m.
Golf was an actual first for us. I like things that are new. I welcome it, I embrace it. And Coach Irvin came with an excellent plan. We started the program, parents demonstrated interest. The children were all excited, even my own child. So it means, yes, I have to spend the money, but we do what we have to do for our children. So as a principal, I feel proud. I encourage other principals to get on board for the parents who support their children in extracurricular activities like this. You need to do that.
For the tournament, I'm going to be doing long chipping, and I will make my school proud and my family.
I enjoy playing golf because of the chipping and the putting. Since I went to sports camp, that was my favorite. I'm kind of nervous for the competition. I hope I do really good.
The tournament will be held on March 17th at the Mount Irvin Golf Course. It's open to preschools, primary schools, and clubs.
That was a production of the Department of Information, Office of the Chief Secretary, Tobago House of Assembly.
Fantastic! The name says it all. This was an evening to celebrate Tobago's talents in Pan Rangers, Devon Stewart, O.J. Richards, and Kirsch Ramsey. Their fantastic contributions raised the island's profile as they led their respective bands to Panorama 2023 victory, and they were duly honored.
You are an example deserving
of this celebration, however small it is. Because we have to highlight your achievement so that some young person looking on can tell themselves that I can come from Tobago and conquer the world. And you are a living testament of that, and we applaud you for that.
A Tobagonian walking in their purpose is feared and respected wherever they go. But a Tobagonian who is fulfilling that God-given purpose every single day of their lives is revered. And these three young men deserve to be revered because they have been walking in their God-given purpose. As I said, there are two people in this room, people who love pan. Not everybody who loves pan can play pan, but everybody who plays the pan loves the pan. Continue loving our instrument.
Tobago, I am very, very grateful and thankful for this award. Ms. Avian Parks, thank you very much. To all those in Tobago, just keep on believing in yourself. Believe in yourself. Because that place called Trinidad is a den. It's a den with lots of lions. And for us to go down there and penetrate and to come out and say, rah, we win. It's great of us to stand here to be honored by the THA. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
I just want to thank the THA, the Office of the Chief Secretary, just for recognizing us. And like you said, give the people their flowers while they're still here. We definitely don't take it lightly at all. We see this as a great opportunity to showcase the talent of Tobago, and we are really grateful that you guys are honoring us today.
If you were to tell me that I will be here today, a couple months ago, with this achievement in my hand, I would have doubted it, to be very honest. I'm humble, I'm grateful, I'm thankful. I'm just happy that, I could win a panorama, but I'm most thankful and humble.
Mr. Richards won the small band finals with Uptown Fascinators and finished third place in the large band category with Neutron Silver Stars. Kirsch Ramsey topped the medium category with Black Rock-based Cats and Jammers and also finished third place in the large band category with a co-arrangement with Richards. And Mr. Stewart took BP Renegades to the large band Glory and also copped second place in the small band category with TT Defense Force Steel Orchestra.
That was a production of the Department of Information, Office of the Chief Secretary, Tobago House of Assembly.
Yeah. Hey.
Tobago updates. Good morning, Tobago. Wake up with
Good morning, Tobago, and welcome to Good Morning Tobago, right here on Tobago Updates. Guys, you know how we always get started. Every morning we have those conversations that you want to have and ask the questions that you want to know. Now, this morning is no different. And as we kick off our discussions this morning, we're starting off with one of our guests who has recently achieved some level of success in the courts in his lawsuit against the current government. This morning, we have with us the former police commissioner, Mr. Gary Griffith, who is also the political leader of the National Transformation Alliance. It's good to have you back with me here again on Tobago Updates, Mr. Griffith. It's always a pleasure to have the conversation. How are you doing this morning?
Fine, thank you. Likewise, always a pleasure to be on.
Right, excellent. And Tobago is always excited to hear about what is going on with you in the latest developments, especially where this case with the current government is concerned. Last time you came here, you were very adamant about the need for the maintenance of democracy in Trinidad and Tobago, especially where the Police Service Commission is concerned and where the TTPS is concerned. We were talking back then about the appointment of the new police commissioner, Mrs. Sheila Christopher, and you extended your congratulations to her, but you also indicated that it was extremely important for her to understand the independence of her role that is separate and apart from the government. Now, you had this ongoing case where an investigation was being conducted and a report was requested from the government, which was led by Dr. Keith Rowley. And this was in relation to the firearm registry. And this is something that you was in charge of during your time as police commissioner. And a report was requested while you were supposed to be temporarily appointed as the acting police commissioner. Tell us a bit about how that case transpired, because there are a number of persons who have not really followed it in detail and understand really and truly what it is. So we want to start off by really giving people an understanding, a deeper understanding of really what happened in this case, because there are a lot of moving parts, there were a lot of accusations, there were a lot of claims, there are a number of leaks that happened in the media that hinted to some level of misconduct on your part. So give the people a little bit of a background on how this case even transpired, where it started.
Yeah, sure. Good morning again. What is unfortunate is that there's something known as democratic dictatorship, when it is that you have a government feel that they can now take control of the police service, the defense force, the DPP's office, and if it is that you don't get what you want, you start putting pressure on them. You would have seen the pressure that went on me when I was commissioner of police, because it seemed that to some that I wasn't moving fast enough to arrest political opponents. And I told them where to get off, and that is where the fallout took place. You'll notice the same thing taking place with the DPP right now. The DPP cleared certain persons politically opposed to the government in the Piarco matter. Within a few days, all of a sudden people go on the platform and start attacking the DPP. That is what happened. That is a very dangerous precedent when it is our independent bodies are now being affected. In this situation that would have taken place, and with firearms, this government has a good, one thing they are very good at. You see that manipulation of trying to influence the public into believing lies. That's what they do. They do well. With Emailgate, you would have seen you can't have anon@mail.com. If the server is not an email authentic server and the address is not correct, then you can't forward emails, you can't receive emails, you can't send emails. But you lie so often on it, and you go and hide in Parliament, you get 150,000, pay them till they're dead to buy it, and that is sad. Thankfully, there are 250,000 what you call floating voters. Tobago is the perfect example, because you all decide, you all don't blindly support something that's going the wrong way, you turn left or right, which is good. It is hope that Trinidad and Tobago can pick up from what Tobago is doing. And what they did was say, look, what worked with us with Emailgate, in the hope that we got people to shift to vote them out in 2015, even though it was all a lie. We have a problem with Gary Griffith. We believe that Gary Griffith has some type of a following of that, the majority of that third constituency, not PNM or UNC till are dead. And because of that, we have to destroy his character, his credibility, because that's one thing, as I said, PNM is very good at. We as the PNM, we are incompetent, we are failures, but if we keep saying that they are corrupt and they are thieves, we will get people to vote for us. And that's what they're very good at. The firearm situation was simple, was typical of that. When it is a government realizes that somebody had 89% national support, that public trust and confidence in the police moved from 14 to 55%, when every single crime was reduced, the highest in the history of Trinidad and Tobago, they got concerned. So they figured, look, we can't just let him leave, we have to destroy his credibility. So they brought up the lies about the firearms. And after 2 years, not one witness, not one document, not one report, not one thing on a video, nothing at all. It was all a lie. But they lied so well and kept saying it. And the one thing, again, what PNM they do is they hire civilians, pay them big money, and then could probably tell them, I am paying you this money, so this is what you must put in the report. So they will take the report and then read it out to discredit the person. They did it with the Barrington report that fell flat. They did it with the Stanley John report that fell flat. 2 years now, as I said, not one person has even been held or interviewed as it pertains to white-collar crime with firearms. So it was all a lie for 2 years. They then decided, okay, the same way we worked with Emailgate to lie in Parliament and hide, let us do it with the firearms. So they formed an audit committee and said they were going to bring it in Parliament. This is what came in. I then immediately said, no, if you want to lie, be a man and say it outside Parliament. Don't go in Parliament and lie and be a coward to lie about me that it means that I can't sue you. This is what I took them to court for. What is amazing is that the Trinidad and Tobago Express...
that during the period of the report, being done and the investigations being done that you were not contacted to do any interviews, to answer any questions from the committee that was put together. And now with any investigation, we know when investigations of this nature are taking place, that you actually give the person being accused the ability to answer a number of questions. So that also raises questions on the validity of the report. But what is interesting is a number of your former colleagues or a number of retired men in the service played a key role on the council that was conducting, the committee that was conducting that report. What does that say for the level of camaraderie and the trust that exists within the TTPS?
Well, again, and that's what this case was about. So if anyone who reads today's Tobago Express, you could change the Express to the Balizé newspaper, because the headline was totally misleading. They said the judge ruled against Griffith. Every single thing that we requested in the court, we won. We won every single one. So if I can forward it to you, the court order. The order in 150, starting in 159, it stated that nothing must be published to any party other than the Commissioner of Police. They wanted to send it to Parliament and to make it public. 2, it said the claimant must be given an opportunity in relation to any investigation. It was not done. 3, there should be no investigation. Should no investigation ensue, then the prohibition would be absolute, which means that the audit is virtually dead now. 4, in para 160, it said the Prime Minister acted in an irrational manner. This is the court saying that about Keith Rowley, and the AG doing a false release, and then Express, the PNM Express newspaper stating that the judge voted against Griffith. They misled the country. Look at it's here in 160. This is the court order. It can be given to anyone. Yesterday, the Prime Minister operated in an irrational manner. 5, there was a breach of the rules of natural justice and fairness in relation to the claimant. Yet the Attorney General sent a misleading release to say that there was no natural justice affected. It is here. So it seems that the Attorney General cannot read. We might need to draw photos for him in future. Para 6 in 161, sorry, an injunction is granted restraining them from putting anything in Parliament, which is all this is what I put. My main request was for it not to go to Parliament. The court has ruled it will not go to Parliament, yet the Express PNM newspaper has stated that the judge ruled against me. It also stated in 163, the court became alarmed that the executive exerted power to send persons in a team of ex-police officers at that who are no longer subject to the police service rules and regulation to investigate police records. This is a concern by the court. 8, those records are obviously related to the operations of the police service and ought not, in this court's view, to fall into the hands of the executive. So, and then you go on with the court voicing their concern of the Commissioner of Police requesting and giving approval to police records falling into the hands of the executive, having joined as parties. I mean, so all of this shows that every single thing that was done by the government in the audit, you don't hire civilians, force them into the police service, have them launch an investigation, let them give you a report, and then you go in Parliament like a coward to lie. That is why I said, your name man, Keith Rowley, speak outside Parliament of what you want to say. And to the persons in the audit committee, as was put in the court, you are civilians. What right you have to get involved? And what has happened now, let me tell you, Tobago, the firearm dealers and the firearm holders who have been affected by these civilians pretending that they are police, asking them for questioning them, they can now sue the state because of interference in private and confidential information between themselves and the police service. McDonald Jacob also will have questions to answer as to why he allowed it to happen. Earl Christopher would have questions to answer because she allowed the police service to be used as an Uber to transport police officers and these civilians to different parts of Trinidad and Tobago to get reports. On what ground you as Earl Christopher, as a Commissioner of Police, allowed these civilians to have access to confidential files, which is what the court voiced their concern about. So every single thing that I put and requested, we won. And I'm actually going to get legal costs for it as well. How could I get legal costs paid thanks to the taxpayers now paying me because of the flaws made by the state? So, I mean, it is very unfortunate it has reached to this point. But the reason I had to push this is because this country is reaching a state of democratic dictatorship, where the government feels that they can now be involved in the manipulation and involvement of investigations.
Now, you have been partially vindicated by the court in the court granting you or ruling that this should not be given to any third party, not even to the parliament, and it should not be in the public domain. But with all of this unfolding, don't you think that it also kind of deteriorates the credibility and trust that the public has in the TTPS? And I would hate to think that that is something that you would want to happen, especially seeing that you are the former commissioner of police. I would believe that you would still want Trinbagonians to have a certain level of confidence in the TTPS.
And therein lies the problem. If you're a commissioner of police, you must understand your McDonald, Jacob, and Earl Christopher have questions. They should never have allowed this to happen. The court has stated.
Mr. Griffith, you seem to have a little bit of a technical difficulty there. We hope that you can rectify that and jump back on with us so that we could continue this very interesting conversation. I see that you're back. Yeah, we had a little bit of a...
So, McDonald, Jacob, and Earl Christopher have questions to answer by allowing civilians to have investigative authority. It means that they were pressured by the politicians. And that's where I stood firm. When politicians will tell me, we are giving you $45 million and this money must be used specifically to hire attorneys to arrest political opponents, I will say, wait a minute, something is wrong here. Because when I ask you for $100,000 to hire an engineer to monitor the investigation of AV drilling, you're sticking. So these are the things that the country needs an independent commissioner of police. McDonald Jacob should have told the Prime Minister, hey, you're out of place. You can't hire civilians to come into the police office and look at files of confidential nature pertaining to citizens who had a contractual obligation expecting the police to adhere to it. He did not adhere to that contractual obligation, and he allowed these civilians to enter. Earl Christopher has allowed this to continue and caused the police service to be a transport unit to be transporting these civilians all over Trinidad and Tobago, demanding questions. Keith Rowley had no right to turn civilians into an investigative body, which is why the court has also stated that the audit, so when the misleading statement in the Express that the judge ruled against me, that is not true. What we said is that if you're doing an audit and you have any concerns, send it to the police. Don't go into parliament and hide like a coward. So I got exactly 100% what I wanted. So it is unfortunate what you said. McDonald, Jacob, and Earl Christopher should have stood firm and told the Prime Minister in a local parlance, listen, you're out of place. You can't hire civilians to come into the police service to investigate matters of the police. This is a police matter. And the court has ruled this. The court has voiced their concern that persons who are no longer police officers were there to investigate police records. How could you do that? And this is, however, are the persons that the 41 members of parliament voted for unanimously to say that she's the best person for the job. So they are the ones who have questions to answer by allowing this to happen, because it is hoped that Earl Christopher does not operate anymore like McDonald Jacob, because what he did was wrong. And he very well could go before the police complaint authority with these individuals reporting him for why it is you allow civilians to enter the police service to launch investigations as stated in the court ruling.
Ultimately are requesting that the entire report be squashed because of the type of practices that were used to get the information. You indicated the illegitimacy of having civilians being able to access quite confidential and sensitive information from the police service during the time of the investigation, and even being able to use, former police officers to do that work. How do you think this is really going to play out? Do you think they are actually going to squash this report? Because we heard the judge stating that they should internalize the report and decide how they're going to move forward on a policy level before publishing it. So that indicates that at some point this information may indeed end up in the public domain. So tell us, how do you predict this thing really playing out?
Yeah, great. So I was a Minister of National Security. I was part of a National Security Council. So the misleading information that we didn't want an audit to take place, that is nonsense. A National Security Council has the right to have an audit, but you can't have an audit team get into the police service to launch investigations. So you can have a committee, you stay outside of the police service, and if you have information that may allude to criminal activity, which is what the court says, your only avenue that you could do with this report is if you feel that there's a concern of somebody breaking the law, send it to the police, which is what the National Security Council could only do. The National Security Council has no operational authority. They are not even part of the Constitution. They are a subcommittee assigned from cabinet, so they don't have authority. What they have is the permission to spend big money, hire people who could be close to them, and then write what they want in a report. What the court has stated now is if there's any information you have to keep that to yourself, because that is you as a politician hiring civilians. That has nothing to do with parliament. That has nothing to do with the law. If it is you feel that there's a policy that needs to be changed, you change it in cabinet. If there's a law that needs to be amended, you go to parliament. But don't go and use parliament as a rum shop to go and speak to bad talk people as you did with Emailgate. This was a planned Emailgate reloaded and they failed. The court has blocked them and told them where to get off. So what is going to happen now? Their only option is which is what we also wanted. You have a concern and you want to accuse people of something, report it to the police. And if these 4 civilians who did not have the common sense to understand that if you are doing an audit, the first thing you must do is to speak to the person in charge of the organization that you're auditing, which shows their incompetence or their personal agenda. If these individuals now go to the police with an allegation of someone involved in criminal activity, and the police realize that it is null and void, these individuals can now be charged for wasting police time. In addition to the persons they accuse can now sue them for defamation by you making a false allegation of them in the police station. So I welcome these 4 jokers now. Go in the police station and report a crime was committed. If you don't have, and what I've heard in this report, it is littered with, it is alleged, we have heard, it has been brought to my attention, which is the typical PNM propaganda of lies, but if you go to parliament with the lies, you cannot be sued. They have played their hand and lost. They've been weighed, measured, and found wanting. And it has exposed the plot, and the court has stated that the Prime Minister was irrational in his behavior. They should not have hired civilians to go into a police station to investigate police. The Commission had no right to have done so, and that this matter cannot go to parliament. And my natural justice was breached. Every single thing that we requested was adhered to. Yet the Express PNM newspaper and the AG in his release have the audacity to mislead the country to believe that the other side may have won something.
And again, thank you for your time. It's always a pleasure to sit with you, but unfortunately, you know, we have to go because we have a number of other conversations that we have to have this morning. But before you go, let us know, do you feel vindicated by the decision that was made by the judge in this case?
Well, yeah, it's not just myself. This is to ensure that people, that this government, which seems to be very vindictive, and they feel that anybody who is outside of the PNM is the enemy and we must arrest them or lock them up. What I have done is to show that our justice system is not politically manipulated. For the court to rule everything against the government, it shows that the government does not have control of the courts, which is thankfully the last bastion of hope we have, that and the office of the DPP. So we have to make sure that these independent institutions cannot be abused and controlled by the government, because if you do that, that is what is called dictatorship. So this was not about Gary Griffith. This was to put a plug and to tell Keith Rowley, back off. You're going too far now. Know your place. And he has played his hand. He has lost. And now, unfortunately, the taxpayers will have to pay my legal costs.
And do you have any words of advice for the office of the DPP during this time?
Yeah, the same way, sir, that I was pressured and I was told that in no uncertain term, if you don't toe the line and you operate to what we tell you to do, we are going to remove you. And I told him where to get off. It is hoped that he stands firm, because he has a job to do and he must not in any way be pressured. Remember that this thing with the DPP started with them criticizing him after he made the ruling on the PRCO the decision. So, and then the Attorney General, who has proven to be the most incompetent AG this country has ever seen, had the audacity to be speaking about the performance of the DPP. And the AG means he does not know his role and function. The Office of the Attorney General does not have operational control over the office of the DPP. The DPP does not report to the AG. The AG has administrative control as to providing equipment, staff, manpower, human resource, but not operational control. So the AG to speak about the performance of the DPP in local parlance is fast and out of place. He should look in the mirror to realize that his releases continue to show his incompetence as an Attorney General. They need to look in the mirror and back off from these independent institutions and stop pressuring them.
Thank you so much for your time this morning, Mr. Griffith. It's a pleasure to have you. Guys, thank you for being here with us this morning. We're going to take a quick break and we will be back with more conversations.
It's a brand new morning, rise up to a brand new dawning. As the passion start to rise, the energy fill the skies. I say thanks for favor to wake up and hail my neighbor. 60,000 people strong, and the vibes is never wrong.
Tobago, it's time to go. Sweet like
Tobago, here's the real deal. Nothing sweeter than when your internet fast all day, every day. I telling you, it's real nice when your home internet and TV package fit your budget. Well, if that's what you want, you're safe with Digicel Plus. Sign up or switch to Digicel Plus now and pay $0 for 1 month. Plus, plans start as low as $199 and you get installed for free. Visit digiceltt.com or a Digicel store now.
Yes, everyone, it's your boy Harry here from Authentic Builders. And this Saturday, the 18th, we will be having our massive Construction Day sale and customer giveaway. And on this day, we will also be launching our new menu, sale menu of Trinidad prices right here in Tobago on blocks, steel and lumber. And also having free giveaways for the kids. So come on down to Authentic Builders this Saturday, located right here at Old Storbay Local Road.
Welcome to Authentic Builders.
MI4 Security Services Company is the most advanced security service in Tobago. Ask about our cash in transit service. It's safe, risk-free, reliable, and timely. We provide safe banking delivery for all business types and sizes with highly trained staff, 24/7 monitoring, coordinated emergency response, and a well-maintained fleet of armored vehicles. Contact us at 660-7723 or visit our website at www.mi4securitytt.com to sign up today.
Everybody only worrying. Never ever worry. Don't mind how things looking hard. I tell them never ever worry. If your life can't get damaged bad. I tell them never ever worry. What I'm saying is true. So just consider Tatil is always right here for you. I tell them never ever worry. Don't mind if life make you sad. I tell them never ever worry. If your house get flooded out real bad. I tell them never ever worry. What I'm saying is true. So just consider Tatil is always right here for you. I tell them never ever worry. If sickness catch you off guard. I tell them never ever worry. If times fall on you real hard. I tell them never ever worry. What I'm saying is true. So just consider Tatil will always be here for you.
Never worry about a thing. Tatil, where people are people. You know what I mean.
Welcome to L'Image Parfait Day Spa, your urban oasis and wellness center. Our services includes massages, treatments, facials, pedicures, weight management, detox programs, and much more. Call us today at 624-1452 or 720-7474. Trinidad locations and Bonacore, Tobago at 273-7772. Let us treat you like the VIP you are.
It's a different type of thing down there. And we party till we drop down there. With a lot of pretty girls down there. Down in Tobago.
Yeah. Hey.
Tobago updates. Good morning, Tobago.
Welcome back to Good Morning Tobago right here on Tobago Updates. Guys, you know when we're here, we're having those really interesting conversations to kick off your morning. And this morning we started off with a very interesting conversation with the former police commissioner, Mr. Gary Griffith. And as we continue getting into those conversations, this morning I have two guests with me and quite interesting conversation ahead because I was enlightened about an institution that existed here in Tobago that I'd never heard about. And I I'm guessing that a number of persons around my age group probably have never heard about. And we're talking about the Tobago Institute of Education. And we have the Past Students Association with us here this morning, represented by Mrs. Juliana Henry King and Mr. Luster Trim. And guys, so we were talking a little bit before we started rolling about the importance of succession planning and why it's so important to raise awareness for a number of these schools that are no longer in existence. And so I was a bit flabbergasted to find out that there was a high school even before I was born on the island that was called the Tobago Institute of Education, along with a number of other institutions that were before my time. But tell us a bit about the Tobago Institute of Education during that period and a little bit about that about the institution. Tell us a little bit.
All right. Thank you so much for having us here this morning. The Tobago Institute of Education was a private secondary school. It started in the 1970s. The founder, the late Lionel P. Mitchell, he was a teacher. And because he was in the system at that time, he realized that there was a lot of challenges that came to the forefront regarding literacy, regarding remedial, regarding children not adapting to the system of education at the time. So they were getting lost in the whole shuffle. And he came upon it, I believe everything is impressed by God. It came upon him that he needed to make an outlet available for parents, for their children, to access the foundational type of education that could take them anywhere in this world. It was a paying private secondary school because in those days in Tobago, there were not much secondary schools as we see now. And the parents had to pay for their children to continue on the academic level in terms of secondary school education. And what happened is not everybody at that time could have been placed in a secondary school, so they were deemed failed, quote unquote. It's not that they didn't pass, but there was no school to place them. So the secondary schools in those days, parents had to pay. But there were children whose parents still could not have afforded. And also, he had a scholarship program attached to that school, where there are a lot of children had sporting abilities, but they could not go to a private secondary school that their parents could afford it. So he also had a scholarship program where he allowed parents to bring their children along with the understanding that they engage in the foundational academic preparations that he had in the school. And from there, some of them branched out to different secondary schools at that time.
Right, and you are the president of this Past Students Association, Mr. Trim. You are the vice president. Tell me what was the thought pattern behind forming this association, and when was it formed?
Well, the association was formed in 2016, to be exact. April of 2016, I was the 6th of April, I could remember clearly. There was a clarion call all along for us to get together because, the school has, since been not operating again, and we decided, well, look, to get some past students, get a list of names and do what we have to do. And we all met at the Esplanade, and it was real coincident that only 6 persons turned up. And on the 6th of April, 6 persons turned up. And from there, we got together, and I never knew Juliana before, never saw her, because I joined TAI in 1977 and left in 1980 to join the Army.
Okay.
So that was real coincidence. Juliana came there with a whole list of names. She was prepared.
Because what happened, let me interject. When God wants to do something, he doesn't work with one person.
Right.
He touches. What happened is, I had loved that school so much. I left there when the school doors closed, when the principal fell ill and he could not continue. What happened is I went there through a summer program, because there was a summer program, and I had failed the common entrance that year in '85, and I went to the summer program. And coming out of that summer program, I told my father I didn't want to go back to school. I wanted to stay here. And funny enough, the entrance to that school, the principal gave a test, which I didn't know what test was, just to have an idea where I'm at. And when I was finished the test and it was graded, he told me how much percentage I got, and was 95%. And he told me that was the exam that the government said I failed as common entrance.
Wow.
And again, it's because there was no school. So what happened is I got this feeling that I needed for us to come together. So I started to write names of people I knew in the school. And I had that in my bag. And then Brother B, he was also one of the past students.
Oh,
yes,
wow.
yes, Derek Bradford. He was one of the past students. And on one of his morning programs, he sent out a call about this whole idea of persons who went to the school and let's meet at the Esplanade. And when I heard it that particular morning, I went there. This is where I met Mr. Trim as well. And there were other persons who came to that meeting, and I had the list in my hand. Because the thing about it is that this school made such significant strides on the national space in Tobago and by extension Trinidad and Tobago that people are not aware of. Sometimes this program will bring some awareness to persons who had forgotten that Mr. Mitchell made some impact upon the journey of their life. So that's why we are here today, because we want to continue the legacy of Mr. Lionel P. Mitchell through what he gave us.
Right. And is it that you guys are looking to bring together more of the past students to have them join the association, maybe make some sort of donation towards similar scholarships? Are you guys planning in the future to maybe develop some sort of remedial institution to do something a bit similar to what has been done with TIE in the past? Let us know, what is the vision for what you are trying to do?
Well, actually, I'm glad you brought that up. Mr. Chimmy will deal with the other aspects as it relates to part of what we want to do. But there's an existing association. There's a lot of people that came out after that Claman call that we didn't even know went to the school, that we see every day. Some of them taught their children, didn't even know what past students of the school. So we have a present membership that is attached to the Thai Past Students Association. What is happening? Why we are here chiefly today, because COVID came and it caused a lot of upsetting the operation, so we had to be dormant for a little while. And challenges came in the whole scheme of growing and progressing. So as it is now, I'm sitting in the seat as the president because the other president, he's no more the president of the association. But what we want to do while we are here is to let the people of Tobago, the people of Trinidad, the people who are viewers or listeners of this particular radio program, to know that if you went to TIE, the Tobago Institute of Education, we want you to come on board, because we have past students all over the world. And there is an association that has been founded internationally with those who are past students, and they are also working with us hand in hand. What is happening? What we want to do, as you rightfully said, we recognize that there's still a need for what TIE, the Tobago Institute of Education, offered then, even more now. COVID created a reality where some children got lost in the shuffle, educationally wise. It also exposed where there were some challenges there. So we really want to have a remedial arm to the Past Students Association. As I said, I went through a summer program, so we want to have a summer program, but not like what we hear happening now as summer programs. Our summer program will be chiefly treating with remedial issues. We also have the emergence of learning disabilities now. And it's not that they cannot learn, but the traditional way of teaching doesn't reach them. So we want to introduce that also to the whole scheme of what we want to offer. Again, there are parents who cannot afford, and they need their children to strive. We even adopted the Lands for Me Primary School. That is our first pilot project. And the succession planning will work through them, because the school closed in 1992. So there's no more past students coming out of it since then. But what we want to do is partner with NGOs, partner with past students, partner with other organizations.
Division of Education.
Even definitely Division of Education, because we want to have a conversation. We want to offer to those who cannot afford quality education. But we also want to not only offer education, because Mr. Lionel P. Mitchell was not just an educator, he was a businessman. He was a sportsman. So we want to have all those enshrined in the whole product of the Thai Pastors Association. You'll hear some more about the scholarship program.
All right, Mr. Trim, you want to elaborate a bit on what that is going to be?
Well, fortunately, I was one of the students who got a scholarship to sports. I was a lawn tennis player, and I started playing lawn tennis, and I got a scholarship. All I had to pay when the month came was $20 to go to school. $20 to go to school. There's a lot of other guys that end up playing cricket for Trinidad and Tobago, play cricket for West Indies. That's here. Also, Daniel, he was one of the first scholarship winners. He was a cricketer. He played cricket at the highest level. There's also Clint York, Neil Skeet. He's a coach now with the division. And those are guys who came to school on that scholarship because, as he said, they deemed us as failure because we didn't get through the common entrance. But Mr. Xavier King is the vice principal of Signal Hill. 3 times he failed common entrance. 3 times. He's now the vice principal of Signal Hill. You have a lot of other people outside out there in foreign. You have Miss Sharon Fritz-Jones. She's an evangelist out there. She's with the NYPD, and she's doing great. A lot of other people out there who just doing what they have to do. But people come aboard, just come on board, and you'll get to know much more about. We offer all kind of help. We get schools from abroad that came down and look at students for scholarship and so forth. Yeah, so we really involved because we want to give back.
Right, so you guys are kind of creating a channel for scholarships. So you guys are not necessarily the ones giving the scholarships, but you are connecting.
That's right, because we believe in the whole idea of networking, because sometimes you may have a product in your hand for a particular reason, but you don't know how to get it there. And we want to create the bridge through what we want to offer, because we really have quality, quote unquote, they used to call us dropouts. We have quality dropouts out there who making strides. And we want people now who have children who may find themselves being labeled as dropout because they themselves are burnt out, tired, frustrated, don't know what to do. We want to partner with the Division of Education. We want to partner with other private learning institutions so that we can bring all what we have, come together and really offer a product where education is concerned to empower our young people right now. So that's why the succession plan is important, because once person buy into what we are about, those who are at the age where they can continue what we are about is what we are clamoring for as well.
All right, so as we close off, make your final call. Do you have a contact number that people can contact you on to get in contact with the Past Students Association or the Tobago Institute of Education? How can people connect with you? Past students, is there a Facebook page? Let people know how to get connected.
Okay, so what is happening is we are now embarking on planting our feet, and presently our contact numbers will be my number, 363-7333, Mr. Trin's number,
684-3655.
We are the part of the executive. Once they contact our numbers, we would invite them to a meeting, and then we invite them to the membership, because there are persons who were on board, COVID came, challenges came, and we want them to come back on board. Also, as it relates to Facebook page, we are now rebranding our product, so all of that is presently in the making.
Okay, excellent. Well, thank you so much for coming on with me this morning and letting Tobagonians know, letting young persons know that there was indeed a Tobago Institute of Education here on the island that catered for those individuals who did not pass the common entrance and kind of acted as a lifeline to bring them in through sports, education, and through, I'm guessing, a number of other activities that would have stimulated growth and helped to...
He was really like a parent, because he gave us some tools that has not left us even up to this very day. He taught us life skills. You know, one of the things he always said to me,
because at that time, as a young woman, you know you're trying to find your way. And I remember he said to me, he said, when you're choosing someone in your life, never choose someone that is too above you or too beneath you, because they would stunt you.
Excellent, and that's a great way to close off our interview this morning. Guys, we're going to a quick break, and we'll have our next guest right after. See you soon.
Tobago updates. Good morning, Tobago. Wake up with Candace and Denasia. Let's go.
Yes, everyone, it's your boy Harry here from Authentic Builders. And this Saturday, the 18th, we will be having our massive Construction Day sale and customer giveaway. And on this day, we will also be launching our new menu, sale menu of Trinidad prices right here in Tobago on blocks, steel and lumber. And also having free giveaways for the kids. So come on down to Authentic Builders this Saturday, located right here at Old Storby Local Road.
Welcome to Authentic Builders.
This is how it's gonna go. They better look up below, 'cause this is your show, and everybody's gonna know. Say it to them once again. They better look up below. This is your show, and everybody's gonna know. That's how it's gonna go. They better look up below, 'cause this is your show.
October will never be better with Tobago Carnival fever. Book your passage and come on over.
Yeah. Hey. Tobago updates. Good morning, Tobago. Wake up with Candace.
Good morning and welcome back right here on Good Morning Tobago and Tobago Updates. Guys, as we continue our conversations this morning, we're going to have a brief chat with the Secretary for Agriculture, Mrs. Natisha Charles Panton, and she's going to be on to clarify a couple of things where the agricultural development workers and their late salary is concerned. We've seen a bit of a circulation in the media of lately indicating that for 3 fortnights, these agricultural development workers have not been paid, and it has been indicated to them that the money is not available to pay them. So we're going to give the Secretary the ability to help us understand a bit about what is taking place there. She gave a comment stating that it is being worked out, and at least by this Friday, being tomorrow, we should see those workers being paid. But for further discussions, we have her on with us this morning. Good morning, Secretary Panton. How are you doing?
Good morning, Chanel. Good morning, Tobago.
Good morning. It's always a pleasure to have you. So you saw the need this morning to jump on and kind of clarify what's happening there, because we're seeing that a number of the development workers under your division are saying that they have not been paid for the last 3 fortnights. What is happening?
Okay, so Chanel, it is an annual problem. It's something that I inherited. This is no new situation. And of course, that is no excuse, because when we came into office, we decided that we would look at the arrangement for these workers. And we have been looking at it, because there has been evidence of that since we took office. And there are difficulties in terms of the administrative aspect of getting these workers paid on time. So I want to explain what I was told by the accountants under my division, because it's something that we always discuss at heads of section, which we have regularly. And what they're saying is that, well, even before we made attempts, we had to find out what the challenges were up front. And what they're saying is that usually the Ministry of Planning would send a specific allocation for development. Now, there's the recurrent budget, which would take care of wages and, little, what you call it, maintenance of facilities and stuff like that. And then you have a development budget, which would, finance projects. And under my division, what the national budget, what we were allocated, agriculture, was a little less than 24 million. And out of that 24 million, 23 million, near 23,600,000, that budget goes just to pay development workers. And it is not like they send that money all up front. So whatever comes to the from the ministry, it goes to Tobago Finance, and then finance would send it to us. Find budgets and planning, they will send money to us. So it's not like the money comes all at once to the division. And that is why for years, development workers would always get paid late. So what we decided to do, we decided to prepare an executive council note requesting all the monies, just like we would under CPEP and these other types of employment. We sent an executive council note last year, and I have evidence of that. I could just produce that for you all. Making an attempt to request all the funds to pay the development workers fund for the fiscal, and that is what we have to do in order to get monies to pay them on time.
Right.
That has not happened.
Secretary, there's the conversation that continues to happen about connectivity within the THA and that connection across divisions. Now, during this time where we are unable to pay workers in agricultural development, how is social services coming into play here, whereby is there the possibility for the Division of Health and Social Welfare to come in and maybe even offer that temporary relief using those food cards to assist those persons who are working on the division? Because we have to be realistic in understanding that these persons have bills, they have to eat, they have children that need to go to school. What are we doing to intervene while they are waiting to be paid?
And I'll tell you something. I got off the phone not too long ago having that same discussion with the Secretary for Health, and she has also, and also the Deputy Chief Secretary, and she has also been attempting to assist me to fix the problem. As I said, it is no overnight fix. I've assembled a team under my division. I'm expert, I'm telling you. And they have been visiting planning, visiting budgets, taking the executive council note, working out where we could get money, if we could cut some money from recurrent, if it's in we still have to follow the financial rules. So we have been making attempts to get money to pay the development workers. So it is not lack of effort at all. And the minority would have also reached out, and I explained that to him, and he also knows this is an annual, it has always been an annual issue, and he himself volunteered to have a discussion with the Ministry of Planning. So I'm hoping that he would also pursue or follow up on that promise, because agriculture is heavily underfunded, and I have a huge wage bill. And
yes, that was our Secretary Natasha Charles Panton, and we were discussing a bit about that development workers issue, whereby they have not been paid for the last 3 fortnights, and she indicated that the problem really is based on the allocation that is made for the development budget and some of the restraints that are happening there. She indicated that conversations are happening with the minority leader, Mr. Kelvin Morris, and him making attempts to talk to his friends over there at the Ministry of Planning. So, Ms. Panton, as we continue, one of the things that we have seen happening, especially under the Division of Health, under Dr. Faith B. Israel, is that when there are late payments expected within her division, she has oftentimes sent out a number of press releases indicating that a number of the health workers would be paid late and when they can be expected to when they can expect to receive those payments. Don't you
Correct.
see it as being important for you guys to make people aware that these delays are happening rather than having to respond to it when it's already out there in the public domain?
Correct. You are right. And I have told the communications department, I also told my administrator the very same thing. And I will continue following up on that, right? Let the people know. But the difficulty with that, and I understand what they are saying to me, is that, you cannot predict, while Dr. Faith may be able to predict, we cannot predict when we would get releases to pay workers. So we don't want to make an empty promise. And I understand what they are saying to me, right? But it would be good for us to try to fix the problem, because telling the workers you're not going to get paid for 3 to 4 fortnights would be of no help to them either, right? Knowing that we could fix the problem, finding the funds up front, that is why we took the executive council note, passed it, and trying to make the effort to get the money up front to pay the workers on time, because it's an annual problem, right? Attempting to pay workers from a development budget, it's difficult. Development money was made for projects. It wasn't meant for wages. And that is why I have no money to do projects. I have to beg, I have to find ways to do things. I have to find creative ways to make money. I don't have any money tree in agriculture, unfortunately. I wish I had, right? But that is what I have to do to survive as a division. So finding the money up front for wages is the best way, right? And that is what we are working on. Finance is working on it, and budgets and planning.
All right, thank you so much for taking the time out to really quickly clear that up and give us a greater understanding of what's really happening over there at the division. We know that you're busy, and so we thank you again for seeing the need to clarify what's happening with the agriculture development workers. Thank you so much, Secretary Panton.
Anytime, feel free anytime to reach out. I'm one to always clarify and, to ensure that the public knows what is the correct information. I don't politicize wages. I don't politicize food, right? My division is an important division. So feel free to reach out anytime.
But can we see any social support coming for those workers that are currently not being paid?
Right, we'll work it out with Dr. Faith, and of course I'll work it out with under the Food Box Initiative. So I'll try my best. I'll try my best. But as I said, my division is heavily underfunded, so I definitely would need the support from the other divisions.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And we look forward to community development and health and all the other divisions pitching in there wherever they can to ensure that we as Tobagonians look after our own Tobagonians. So, guys,
Amen.
we are going
Amen.
to jump straight into our other conversation again. Thank you, Secretary Panton. And this morning we're talking about the student preparation, right? And we're talking with the coordinator for the student preparation organization, and we're talking to Mr. Kyron Fritz this morning. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. How are you doing? I hope you're hearing me.
Okay, I'm hoping that I pronounced it properly. It's the preparation.
Yes, student preparation. Well, I'm not the coordinator, but part of the team. Mr. Monokil is our head coordinator, but I'm here, so we can have a conversation this morning.
All right, excellent. And I am kind of understanding that the preparation is kind of a preparation with prayer.
Yes.
I hope that I got that right.
That's right. For sure.
So tell us about your organization. Are you guys specifically from a particular church, and how did this initiative start?
No problem. Well, yes, we are from the Family Focus Broadcasting Network here in Trinidad. Most people will know the arm of FBN, which is called Isaac 98.1. It is a 24-hour gospel station, but we also like to call it a 24-hour family station. We're all about the family, family programming, community programming. And this particular venture, student preparation, it's taken a different name over time, but it started off as student prayer. When our CEO, the late Dr. Margaret Elcock, and her daughter Marissa Elcock Tongs at the time, she and the team that were here dealing with youth, they really wanted to have something where young people can come together and be prayed for success. It's something that we believe in. We believe prayer still works, and even at the gesture of praying before an exam, it's always something that's been ingrained in our culture. Your grandmother or your mother would always tell you, say a prayer before you do your exam. Make sure and settle yourself. So it started there with just prayer, and over time it's evolved. We've now have the opportunity to call it student preparation, as we find that balance in preparing students for the exams as well. So it's not just prayer, but now you get a chance to come into a forum where you have facilitators that will come and give you study tips and, just basically prepare you for your time in your exams.
Excellent. And so tell us about what time the event is taking place, and how can persons in Tobago participate?
Nice. Well, it takes place this Sunday at Jesus Elam, 3rd Avenue, Barataria, from 3 p.m. 3 p.m., right? That's in Trinidad. And we are inviting everyone in Tobago and all those listening. And we have different islands involved this time around in the Caribbean to register online. If you go at any of our Isaac social media pages, that's at Isaac the Promise on Facebook or at Isaac the Promise on Instagram, there's a registration link you can click on to actually come in virtually. So usually we would come to Tobago this time around, as we've started back in person. We started out the in-person meetings again in Trinidad first. Of course, we have all of our future plans to come back to Tobago in person. But for this one, Tobago, you're invited to register online. Just click the link. It's absolutely free. And you can find yourself in one of the virtual rooms to experience student prayer as we'll be having it live in Trinidad.
Okay, excellent. So we are able to participate virtually in that event. And tell us exactly who this is targeted toward.
Right. No problem. Well, this particular program, we're actually the first Sunday of the month of March, but this Sunday we are focusing on secondary school students and those doing CXC and CSEC examinations. We want to really target that particular crowd. CXC this year or your exams this year, we still invite you to come once you're in secondary school, because you have a chance now to get even prepared a little earlier. We have beautiful facilitators coming in, very qualified. We actually have a wonderful team coming from Tobago. That's Oswald and Ria George, who we've become quite fond of, and they're like family now to us for student prayer over the years. They are going to be coming, and actually they are going to be dealing with the parents, teachers, social workers, and guidance counselors that are invited to come to this one as well. So even though it's geared towards the secondary school students and CXC and CSEC, we of course want to invite the parents to come. If you're a teacher, guidance counselor, social worker, we're going to have a special session for you. So there are breakout rooms where they can come and be a part of the action, man. It's going to be good.
Right. So you guys are also targeting those parents, those teachers, those students, and not only with prayer, but with also practical tools and tips to prepare physically, psychologically, mentally for the exam. A lot of students go into these exams pretty nervous, and there's the whole psychological aspect of the pressure that is put on them to succeed during the exam. So I'm thinking that a lot of that is going to be dealt with as well in these sessions with the social workers. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, we've been quite impressed with the knowledge from the facilitators that have come through over the years. It really prepares you not just for the exam, but for life. As you said, anxiety is number one when it comes to examinations. People always say, I'm so nervous. Some people struggle physically even while they're going to sit the exam. All of these things are going to be addressed on Sunday. Not just praying for you, yes, and asking God to be a guide and your light and to bring the exams to your memory. But these breakout sessions are really geared towards the holistic development of the mind of that person going forward into the exam room. Preparing you to learn calming techniques, breathing exercises. I've been a part of it for some time now, and I've snuck into some of the sessions, and I've listened to when the facilitators are breaking down things and asking questions, because there's going to be a Q&A part of it as well, where you can ask questions to the facilitators, and they really do prepare you not just for the exam now, but the exam to come, which is life. So it really is a beautiful balance in the name that we've come up with now in terms of that student preparation. It really does prepare you for the future.
Oh, excellent. And again, thank you so much for coming on with us and discussing. We see that you have a number of sponsors who have come on board. let us know if people want to get in contact with you, they want to get on board, they want to also support an initiative of this nature, or even if we have churches or schools that want to send a cohort or just invite parents to specifically log in on Sunday, what is the contact information that they can get into contact with you?
All right. So again, for the youth that want to come on board, you can utilize our social media pages at Isaac the Promise. That's the handle, at Isaac the Promise. That's on Facebook, Instagram. You'll get all the information there. But also you can give us a call in Trinidad here at 622-8981. That's 622-8981. And that number is going to give you access to the information booth here and some of the guys in reception who have all the information for you, and they'll be able to give you that information that you're looking for. So 622-8981 is the number to call, but at Isaac the Promise on all our social media platforms.
Excellent. And we are grateful that you see the need to involve our Tobago students in this initiative. And have a number of our Tobagonians be a part of that event. So again, Mr. Fritz, thank you for coming on. Thank you for joining us here on Tobago Updates on Good Morning Tobago here with me. And again, thank you. And thank you to the Isaac family for having such a wonderful initiative, guys. That's the preparation that's going to be happening this Sunday on Isaac. Check out their social media pages. Listen to them on the radio and hear what's going on. Even if you don't have kids, you may know someone who knows someone who knows someone. So that's this Sunday, the 19th of March. And we are inviting not only kids, but teachers as well to be a part of that. They may be able to gain some useful tips and expertise that might help them go back to their classrooms to successfully prepare their students for those exams. So again, Mr. Fritz, thank you, and you enjoyed it.
Thank you so much.
It was
Thank you for the invitation. We appreciate it. Blessings.
Thank you, Tobago. I mean, guys, you know how it goes here. Every morning we're here, myself and Candice Jackson, and we're having those conversations. And this morning was quite an interesting one. We started off with Mr. Gary Griffith. We then had the TIE organization, which is the Tobago Institute of Education, a school that today I honestly heard for the first time. I mean, that could kind of be attributed to the fact that that was way before my time. But it is interesting to know that these institutions existed, what they have done, and what they're still trying to contribute. We had Mrs. Juliana Henry King and Mr. Luster Trim. He was here. They were here and they were discussing how you can get connected with the association. If you are a past student of that school, connect with them. We also had Mr. Fritz right there from Isaac 98.7, 98.1, and they are having that preparations for the students that are going to do CSEC CAPE exam. And finally, we had Natasha Charles Panting giving us some clarity on what's happening there in agriculture with those agriculture development workers. Guys, thank you so much for choosing Tobago Updates as the #1 broadcast station here on the island of Tobago. And thank you to our international and global audience for continuing to make us #1. Guys, enjoy the rest of your day. I am Chanel Felix, and catch me here again on Tuesday and Thursdays as I sit and have those conversations with you guys. Enjoy the rest of your day.